Welcome back to Field Trip Nation. If you like this video, please like and subscribe because it really helps us a lot. Today we're exploring Wood Lake off of 66th and Lyndale in Richfield, south of Minneapolis. And Wood Lake at one time was a housing development, but in the late 50s and early 60s, City of Richfield said we'd had enough of all the houses flooding, that they bought up a whole bunch of houses and restored Wood Lake. And now it is a nature preserve oasis in the middle of the city. So you can easily take a bus to it. You could also drive there as well. The beauty of this restored wetland, woodland, and tallgrass prairie is its diversity. And if there are any teachers watching this, you could easily take a classroom of students on a weekly basis and create multiple lessons to teach students about water quality, about diversity, about the food web, and not only enjoy teaching them, but also enjoy just being there with the students.
Today I'm back at Wood Lake Nature Center, and today we're going to explore the Tallgrass Prairie that is part of the Nature Center. And the first thing that we're greeted with is this glorious boreal canopy in this forest that's next to the Wood Lake. Through the canopy you can see the wetlands. We'll be heading to the Tallgrass Prairie, which is a little bit beyond the wetlands. Actually, most of the most of Minnesota for a long time was Tallgrass Prairie, with scattered lakes and forests around the lakes. These were flattened from the last glacier, or the last ice age. And we have a dry creek bed for when there is flash floods. And if we study the canopy, you have shade plants at the bottom and plants that have medium sunlight, and then you have the tall canopy for the trees that need the most amount of sunlight. And essentially those are the trees that have been here the longest. If you look down below, a lot of these medium trees are the offspring of the larger trees, and they're trying to race towards the sun as quickly as possible, because without the sun they are not going to survive. This lake formed about, well, probably be between 10 and 12,000 years ago. It was left over from the glaciers, where you're seeing right now 12,000 years ago would have been a good mile and a half, a good 2 to 3 kilometers thick, and very little life, perhaps some bacteria. The lake may have had pockets where small water creatures lived deep below the ice. We're finding some of those creatures in Antarctica as the ice melts, as well as Greenland. As we head into the Tallgrass Prairie, there are a lot more plants that flower. And they do that to attract pollinators. There are lots more pollinators in the forest because it's cooler, and because there's more water from the trees. Whereas on a tallgrass prairie, you have so many different types of plants and plants that you need to attract. If you're a pollinator, you need to attract animals, insects, and birds to pollinate so that you can continue to, as a plant, can continue to expand your genetic pool. And it, depending on the season, will give you different sizes of or different colorations of the flowers. If you can see this pattern right here, this looks like all the grass is crushed down, and this is actually where some deer probably slept, or some other larger animals. To the best of my knowledge, there are no bears, but there might also be other, but deer most likely trampled this down. This was protective, and they could still see. So deer tend to bed down, creating different areas necessary for them to sleep, get some rest. If you look at these trees, you can tell which way the wind normally blows. Because on the right-hand side of these trees, the branches are a little bit thinner. And so that would give you an indication that the wind is going to be blowing from the, a little bit, most likely from the east, and I'm not for sure on the exact distance, but I would say the east, and you're going to have a pattern that you can see from these trees as the wind blows. In the distance, you have your wetland. That dark green band below the trees are cattails. And near any wetland, you're going to have a tallgrass prairie or a boreal forest in Minnesota. And on the other side of this trees is interstate. This is milkweed. Milkweed, these are milkweed pods, and they are about ready to seed. When they don't, they have an extraordinarily strong smell. There might be a few that might still have them, but they have a really strong smell. Smells are a way to attract pollinators. Same thing with color. You can see with these flowers right here, the color in human vision is purple. What an insect, a pollinator, may see might be oranges, might be yellows, might be reds, something in the infrared or ultraviolet wavelengths of light. And that is a way for insects and birds and other animals that pollinate to see the different plants that might be available to be taken. And flowers were an adaptation to attract pollinators, to attract insects, to attract birds. Now we're walking back through some of the wetland where there's lots, I mentioned lots, of dragonflies. The brown are cattails, and cattails were very nutritious, still are nutritious, type of food. The pollen from the brown part of the cattail would be used to make fritters and the like. The root can be used as to be pounded into a paste, and the stalks are also used not so much for the food but for weaving. We go back to our prairie with our cattails, which are basically growing next to or on wetlands. You can see here, you can see some of the wetland. And you can also see a bunch of dragonflies. Dragonflies, actually, when they're young, they look like beetles. And the cattails will ebb and flow. They're going to grow outward and then move back in, depending on how many muskrats need that area for their own homes. The more muskrats there are, the less the cattails and rushes, mainly because the muskrats eat them for food. But in doing so, they create this incredible, beautiful, diverse land area, water area, and diverse environment. There's an egret over to the left of the tree in the wetland, and there are plenty of other plants and animals all around this very diverse environment. Now if you look at the water here doesn't look, it's not very clear. Which is actually good, because if it were clear, it means that there's not a lot of nutrients in it. The water that isn't clear, there's a lot of nutrients in it, which means that's a lot of life that can grow.
Thank you for coming along with us on this latest field trip. If you like this, please like and subscribe. It really does help us.